All right, it says we're live, so we're live. Welcome to a slightly belated, but we're here to Infinity War and Beyond episode for Doctor Strange.
Yep, we had to make a deal with Dormammu because of all the technical difficulties, computer's not working right.
Oh, it's been one messy day.
Yes.
So people should be filtering in a minute. I'm going to send a little message out to people while you get us started.
All right. Well, if you'll turn it over to my screen.
All righty.
So professional over here.
Yeah. We don't have a guy in the chair.
We don't. And my eye is bothering me. And there's just all sorts of loveliness going on tonight.
It's been one of those days.
All right. So Doctor Strange, like it says, and like it says in the description and everything, we have seen this movie a few times. Of course, we saw it once in the theater. And then on a whim a few weeks ago, we watched it because I was working on a paper with my students. And I wanted to use Doctor Strange as an example. The prompt was about how your, wasn't necessarily actions, or maybe it was like how your choices can impact your life. I forgot the exact wording of the prompt, but I figured Doctor Strange would be a good example, and the students agreed. And then, of course, we watched it most recently for this. Because, you know, it's a fun little movie. So we're going to be doing a little brief overview of some of the technical aspects of the movie, box office, that kind of thing. Things that we didn't like, which we call our gripes. Things that we liked, that's pretty self-explanatory. MCU connections, we always like to point out the Stan Lee cameo, and of course, post credits and mid-credits. And then here we have a lovely array of Doctor Strange posters. There's all sorts of really cool ones that feature each of the characters, but, you know, since he's the man of the hour, I figured I would choose all the ones that had Cumberbatch on them.
Fair.
All right. So I guess before we get into it, shall we greet anyone in the chat?
Kimber's been and popped in, said YouTube didn't alert her that we were live. So I'm making sure the proper people in the proper places in the proper circles of power know that we're live.
Yes.
A Scene in Sound loves Mr. Doctor. I'm also fine with Mr. Doctor, though it's a bit strange.
It's a bit strange.
But who are we to judge?
We're not here to judge. Well, actually, we are, because it's a review show, so...
We can be like a non-judgy review.
So, yeah, fun time. So, did you tweet us out?
I did tweet us out. I'm also going to pop on Discord and let people know. But, yeah.
All right, if you'll put it back on the...
I will. Sorry, guys. We've been having some hiccups all evening, technically speaking.
Yes. All right, so Doctor Strange came out on November 4th in 2016. It feels like this movie was more recent. But I guess when you get older, time works weird, which is funny because this movie has a time motif. Directed by Scott Derrickson, this is the second movie from Marvel's third and current phase. Of course, like the other movies that opened number one at the box office, this one had kind of a between budget and a little bit less than Spider-Man Homecoming, but a little bit more than some of the previous MCU movies at $165 million. And it did all right at the box office, but compared to some of the other movies in the franchises, not quite as well, just getting $100 million more than $500 million. And I would read the full number out loud, but, you know, we're having so many technical difficulties, I'd probably mess that up.
That's
and
fair.
I don't want to do that.
That's fair. Just gotta let one more person know we're good to go.
Alrighty.
It's been a day.
It has been. And the first thing we're going to talk about
are our gripes.
Yes, which we don't really have too many.
Yeah. Not too many. This is a pretty great, solid movie. First off, I just want to throw out there that I didn't realize until like last night that this was Regina George from Mean Girls.
Yes, playing his kind of girlfriend, but kind of not
ex-girlfriend. I liked her character. I just feel like they really didn't utilize her very well. I don't know. It's maybe because we just recently did all the Thor movies, and Jane felt like much more of a staple character, like actually had purpose in the first two. As we're in this one, it's just she's just kind of there to patch him up when he gets hurt and all that jazz. So I don't know. I feel, Kimber's saying no chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of got that. Like, this feels like a Agent 13 moment. It feels like an Agent 13 moment where she's there to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and they force a romance. Like, I would have been fine with her just being like, yeah, we used to date, but we're just friends now or something.
Yeah.
But no, they're like, no, they kiss and blah, blah, blah. It looks like she is sniffing his chest wound. Or his cheek wound. Yeah, cheek wound.
Chest wound. Yeah, that's just...
But that's indicative of movies like this, though, where they're just kind of like, we gotta have a romance in there.
Yeah, they could have just easily been friends, and then she's tired of his shenanigans because he is so arrogant.
Yep.
I would have liked that much better, but
this
again,
would be...
Is she... I don't know a lot about the Doctor Strange comics, so I don't know if this is a character that's in the comics, and so they're paying homage to that.
Yeah. I feel like a better example of this kind of situation that I think could have been handled better is like when we talk about Ant-Man later.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Ant-Man, his ex-wife is a character in the movie, but there's no real interest there.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to get back together. It's like, no, you are terrible, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Yep, not all movies need romantic subplots.
They don't.
So I guess we can't do this movie without addressing the Highland gorilla in the room. The
Celtic gorilla.
The Celtic gorilla in the room.
It's two different things, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
We just offended a whole bunch of Europeans.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. Two groups of Europeans. The ancient one, of course, in the comics was more of your Eastern individual, some race of some nationality of Asian that I do not know off the top of my head.
I want to say from Tibet, but I'm not 100% sure. Again.
Exactly. And while I know there was a lot of there was some backlash to Tilda Swinton being portrayed as, or being cast as a character, I think it works really well. I think she does a really good job. So it's really not. I don't think it's as big of a problem. I think it's funny though that this, and it's probably because Tilda Swinton is less insufferable. But it feels like there was a lot less backlash to this character than there was weirdly Danny Rand, who was a white dude in the comics, and they were like, well, why not just put someone else in there? I'm like, I don't know. I liked her. She's fantastic in this role.
She's great. It's just
it is difficult for Asian Americans to get roles in some of these films, and it would have been nice to have more than just Wong.
Yeah, because I want to say in the comic it was
she's he, which the gender swap issue is not an issue for me either. It's just it's one of those situations where it's only a mild gripe, I think, because people made such a big deal about it.
Yeah, I remember this being like the controversy of this movie coming out, and she does a good job, and they kind of, again, like you said, they don't say like, oh, she's just Asian, but she's also like super white, like that, which would make no sense, kind of like in that Aloha movie where I want to say it was Emma Stone was supposed to be Chinese. It's like, no, don't do that.
Exactly.
So I mean, at least
and it could have been, and Kimber's bringing up that it was a super racist caricature to begin with, and it's possible. I mean, it's very true. A lot of the characters in that era were like super racist caricatures between her and him and the Mandarin. Very idealistic, hyper super racist caricatures, but at the same time, they probably could have made it not too bad. I mean, they did a decent job.
There's other Asian characters in this movie.
Yeah.
So.
And they did a good job, I think, swapping out like the Mandarin, like updating, modernizing their Mandarin, even though it was a switcheroo on us. So I feel like they could have done that. But it was fine either way. Either way, Billy is bringing up the White Witch. Yes, Tilda Swinton played the White Witch, and it was fantastic from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So
she's in a lot of. She's such a versatile actress, and again, we're not saying that she did a bad job.
No, she's not.
It's just
it's one of those, and
it's
honestly,
just like a little thing. We didn't want to like not bring it up.
Yeah, because it is something that was involved in the making of this film. So.
But other than that, there was maybe like a few CGI things that stood out on home video that didn't stand out in the theater. but I don't fault the movie for that. Nothing can be like a perfect transfer from, the movie screen to your home screen. So
well, and this film was really ambitious with its effects, and that you're going to have some missteps when you try to be as ambitious as they were. So next.
All right, those are the only gripes. So we're on to Lex. If you want to check back in the chat,
I will do that. Billy, Tom, and Kimber are all here. Billy says hi. Hi, Billy.
hello.
How's it going? And not a lot other than what we've talked about as we go. Kimber does bring up she looks like a beautiful tenderness alien anyways, very genderless. Mm-hmm. Yeah, genderless alien. Yeah, I get that. She's honestly, her and Peter Stormare are my favorite part of Constantine because she plays Gabriel. I guess Gabrielle or Gabriel or however they want to do that. Regardless, she looks like she could be something like an angel because she has that like hauntingly beautiful visage and such. And Peter Stormare as Lucifer is fantastic. But we're not talking about Constantine. That's another comic book movie from another comic book universe played by Keanu Reeves. Which, by the way, I think also could have been a pretty decent Doctor Strange. I'm good with Cumberbatch, but I think I would not be disappointed with Keanu.
All right, well, let's move on to some things that actually happened.
Yeah.
What? All right, so I like that they had such a like contrast between like his character before the accident, and then there was like no way that a simple surgery would be able to fix what happened to him, and the fact that it was his own arrogance that caused the accident with him speeding through the thing and trying to get to the benefit that I think it was to honor him, wasn't it?
I think he was going for some sort of speech,
some kind of
talking
lecture,
event,
something, and then she was trying to say that they did the best they could. It's like, well, I could have done a good job. It's like,
not with your hands that screwed up, buddy.
You're in traction, so no, you couldn't. And so this is the fact that, like, even in his like most vulnerable state, like he still has like that arrogant personality, and then how far he has to go downhill before he can get back to normal again. Yep. Even then, he's still shaking. His hands are shaking at the end of the movie, so it's not 100%. I love it when she just leaves him on Mount Everest.
Yep, and I this is the magical equivalent of tossing a 4-year-old in the deep end of the pool.
Yeah, like, you can swim, sweetie. And then I love when they're waiting for him to finally figure out the sling ring situation, and she's trying to act all cool as a cucumber, but behind her
she's got the ring ready to go.
Well, and she's also just like flipping her fan nervously. So, like, she's not showing it outwardly, but behind where nobody's looking, she's showing.
Billy's bringing up one of the things we mentioned, the gripe relationship, but bringing up Rachel McAdams as Regina George. I just wanted the meme of, like, raise your hand if Stephen Strange has hurt you.
So many people would be raising their hands.
Right.
Just because it was so mean to them.
Yep. Regardless. But, oh, yeah. The house.
Yeah, I just love the design aesthetic in this movie. A lot of the visuals are really great. The special effects we had mentioned before, I think, really stood out. So even though, like, I mean, they had like a good budget, but they didn't have a Civil War budget. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a Jurassic World budget. So the fact that things do look really cool, I think, is a credit to, like, you know, they probably allocated their resources very carefully.
Yep.
And then I love this scene where he's demonstrating that you don't need a hand to manipulate magical spells, as they call it. You might call them spells, or maybe you'll call it a program, trying to relate it to things from our world so it's more palatable. And then just, like, obviously, like, these kinds of special effects, I mean, they're not hard to achieve, especially when you're in an all-digital space, but it could... We've seen effects like this in other movies look terrible, so the fact that this looks really cool.
Yeah, there's one that I don't know if you got a picture of where he shows up in the realm where everything looks like his face carved in stone. and there's like shifting arms and hands everywhere.
I don't think I got
But
that.
then he like looks at his hand, and hands are coming off of his fingers, and on the fingers of those hands, more hands are coming off the
I did
fingers,
not see that
and it's
one.
just it's
I
insane.
wasn't able to get that. And then all of the kind of Inception-y bending of reality in these like mirror realms to protect people from wizards.
Yep.
Wizards fighting, sorcerers fighting.
Masters of the Mystic Arts, please.
Uh-huh.
That's what they prefer.
Earth has wizards now, y'all. And then here's like another example. It's like very like MC Escher kind of aesthetic where
With the mirror world.
you don't know like where one place ends and another begins. It's all just meshed together, and just the fact that this is going around all around us while these beings are using magical spells to fight each other.
Yep.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Billy's bringing up he wanted to look like a kaleidoscopic acid trip, and yeah, they totally pulled that off.
And then I liked how they did the astral projection as well, where like he's literally helping her with the surgery. I think this is before she gets freaked out.
Like moments before she even spots him.
Yes, it's like, no, you need to do it this way. It's like, what the heck is going on? And she still doesn't even like believe him. Like, oh yeah, I have to go do all these things. And then it's like, oh yeah, there's a portal to another dimension in the closet. Like, oh, okay, now I believe you. And then we never see her again.
Janine's here too. Welcome, Janine.
Nice, Janine. Thanks for coming by. And then here's another where they're just having like, a little astral projection.
Well, it's a poignant moment too because it's her last one,
Mhm.
and her last words are really heavy too. Where she's slowed time down so much, so she's literally she just wanted to see the snow.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in there, but it's snowing and there's some thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some thunder snow.
Thunder snow. It's a twofer.
Yeah, there is a second bolt of lightning at some point.
Something that I noticed when I was grabbing the screens for this was there's a lot of parallel shots, and I thought that was a really cool motif. So we see him looking out the window as he's getting ready to go to the benefit, and then later we see him looking out like that same window. But now he's in his distraught phase because no matter how many surgeries he's had, he still cannot get the functionality of his hands, and that's what he relied on as a neurosurgeon, the best neurosurgeon.
The best.
And we see another one when he's getting scrubbed up for surgery, and then when he's like at his mercy trying to figure out what he can do because science has failed him, and so he's got to figure out what his next step is, and that's when he seeks out the guy that went to Comertage.
I'm going to throw this out there. This scene right now where he's got his hands up, he's looking very young Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, I could see it a little.
It's the hair.
And then I just love the cape.
The cape. Everybody loves the cape.
The cape is the best character in the movie.
And yeah,
so much personality in an inanimate object.
Further up, Tom compared it to the rug from Aladdin.
Yes,
and I
makes,
totally get that.
That makes so much sense. I can see that. And then like this shot where we get to like see him like in the full glory of his Doctor Strange
The sanctum,
attire.
that symbol, and
the sanctum symbol, and this must have been like really powerful for everybody that was a super Doctor Strange fan of all the comics. So like I just love it when they do these kind of moments for the fans.
Yep.
It looks really cool. And obviously as moviegoers you get a lot out of it too, but I think like if you're a fan, you get a little bit more. I love Wong.
Yeah, Wong's great.
Wong's the best.
Just one word.
When they relieved the previous librarian of his head.
Yeah.
And he won't let Doctor Strange check out certain books.
He's not ready.
Yeah, you're not
He
ready.
wasn't ready.
You're not ready for this, and like he's making all those Beyonce jokes to him, and he's just acting like he was not even laughing or anything. He's just very stoic.
I love that the last thing he says after they save the day, and he's just like, "Well, that's impressive," or he says something, and Wong just loses it, just breaks down laughing. Wong was great.
Yeah, Wong's pretty great.
Janine says her new ship is Carpet and Cape. And Billy's bringing up that Matt Key loves Doctor Strange. I followed Matt Key. Doctor Strange is like my third favorite Marvel character like ever because he's just so cool. Like his style is amazing, and he's a magician, and That's something I didn't grow up seeing a lot of in comics, because when you're young, the only comics you get thrown in your face are like Batman and Superman and maybe like Spider-Man and the X-Men and stuff. But then there's this guy over here who's literally a wizard.
Earth has wizards now.
Apparently.
And then I really enjoyed Mordo's character, and then also his arc of like he believed so heavily in the words of the Ancient One, and then to find out that she had been siphoning power from the Dark Dimension, and so he's questioning his beliefs. And then when Stephen manipulates time to save people, and so he kind of goes through this arc of losing his faith. And I thought that was very interesting for this kind of a movie to see like a character that starts out, you know, in the heroic side, and we see them like fully transform.
Well, and he's
to the villain side.
He's one of the best kinds of villains. He thinks he's doing something right. Which, I mean, there's question there, but also there's more Wong in that background picture.
Yes,
because we love Wong.
We do. And then this
was a scene in the trailer.
This was great though. It's like Shambhala.
Is my
mantra? No, it's the Wi-Fi password. We're not savages. That was pretty great.
I think it's Chitwell Ejiofor.
I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but
I loved him so much in the Serenity movie, and I love him in this because he's got this like poise and grace and like stoicism that's just awesome.
And then I just love when, because, you know, Steven is very skeptical, and then when he gets his mind literally blown.
His face.
Yes.
Oh no!
And then his like teach me moment when he realizes that magic is real, he's literally at his like lowest point when he looks like this, and then when he glows up later.
Yep.
I did this for Kimber.
Yep.
And maybe me.
Of course.
But yeah, and I love when he's like shakily using the razor. It's like, dude, you're gonna cut yourself, and then he gets that classic, you know, Doctor Strange look, because, you know, earlier in the movie he was, you know, like, I think it was totally clean shaven, which I think Benedict Cumberbatch looks much better with a goatee. Like, he should just rock that look all the time. That's my dream for him. I'm sure he's watching and listening. Cumberbatch, if you are, just keep looking like this.
There is a
scene.
It's
a good look for you, sir.
There is a scene I want them to replicate, and I hope it's in Infinity War or one of the future Avengers movies before Robert Downey Jr. is out. And I want the high five with awesome facial hair bros, because that is a comic scene.
Strange
and Stark.
Strange and Stark.
Yeah.
What about Star-Lord? He has facial hair.
It's not the same kind of awesome facial hair.
Not the same.
Also, I'm pretty sure Stark hates Star-Lord.
I would imagine.
If that trailer says anything.
And then
Kimber
like
is
picture of this awesomeness.
Kimber is bringing up she wants him to play Vincent Price, of course.
Yes, of course.
This actually, Randall brings up this was an amazing experience in IMAX 3D.
We wanted to see this in 3D, but I got sick and we didn't get to go.
Yeah, we really, really want. I think we had tickets for the 3D.
We did, and I think you had to get them refunded. Yeah, I had to get them refunded. Yeah, because I had gotten ill. I didn't even go to work that day, and it was like I can't even. I think I slept through the screening, and you took care of everything.
Yep. Tom says Parker's got some peach fuzz. He'd want to get in on that high five, but they'd both be like, "No, kid.
No, you need to go."
Tom is also bringing up that the guy who played Mordo Ejiofor is a better Ronin in Serenity than Ronin. Better Ronin than Ronin in Serenity. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And then, of course, one of our villains, Caecilius, who was a disciple of the Ancient One, but then he went rogue.
This is another. I feel like this villain had a lot of potential, and I'm not going to say he's wasted, but he is again a villain. He's basically Mordo. Mm-hmm. He's another Mordo. It's just Mordo went a different route after he was like, "Oh my God, I was being lied to this whole time." And I love Mads Mikkelsen. I'm in the Hideo Kojima camp. I don't know why I love him so much, but he's just such a great. Everything I've seen him in, I've loved him in at least. I'd like to believe that Mads Mikkelsen's eye makeup here was the inspiration for part of Death Stranding, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I like the aesthetic, especially like with the around the eyes. Like,
Yep.
I thought that was like a really cool look to kind of represent that.
Eye
Like,
makeup on point.
yeah, well, isn't it supposed to represent that they're kind of corrupt?
Corrupt, and I think like bleeding into the dark dimension. Kimber says he's kind of wasted. Like wasted's a strong word because he didn't get in time with him, but he could come back in theory. He's stuck in the dark dimension with Dormammu, but it's going to be a matter of time before Dormammu finds another way back out because it's Dormammu and he hates bargains.
He does hate those bargains. And then just like another picture of him. I think this is like probably like a production still,
yeah,
because
it's definitely from early on, like early on in the thing. So.
And then Dormammu, I thought the effects on him were really great. And then the whole
I've come to bargain.
And I love the way they montage that, where it's not the same every time. Like, he dies different ways, and then they kind of have him in the middle of his little speech sometimes, where it's not like he just keeps walking up and then walking up. They found a way to make something that could have been redundant not redundant.
Yep.
And just like the frustration that Dormammu goes through because he's never had to deal with time and repetition. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it looks really cool. The effect with them, it's kind of like starts at the center point and then it goes out.
Yeah, the ripple effect. It's like a wave. Billy is saying Dormammu reminded them of a California raisin. A giant
I could
California
see that.
raisin.
Definitely. There were some other things that kind of made me think of too, but now they're lost on me because we had so many technical difficulties. I don't remember.
Tom saying, "Oh my god, a Marvel movie that doesn't end in a fist fight," and yeah, that's kind of the best part about Doctor Strange. It's not about the fights; it's about how clever he is, and he out like everyone's outwitting each other, and that's great. The fights are cool, but still. Hey, man, Iron Man movies don't typically end entirely in fist fights. There's also lasers.
There's also lasers.
Also lasers.
The laser is working. All right, so that was the big thing of for all the things that we liked. Another thing that I didn't really find like a picture to represent this.
Sorry.
But I really did love in the beginning of the movie the motif of time with all the different timekeeping devices. I felt like that was a pretty good foreshadowing of what was to come at the end.
Side note, so those little things, I didn't know this because I'm a dirty pleb, but those little, when he's pulling his drawer out and it's got all the clocks, the little spinning thing is a watch winder. It's to help keep your watches accurate. Though apparently a lot of watchmakers and people that make watch winders and stuff said his versions of watch winders that he was using, the laying down, facing up kinds of watch winders, are not as accurate as they should be. But I feel as though it's not enough of a difference to matter. Maybe it's strange.
Maybe it would be. I don't know. Maybe it looked cooler on screen that way.
With little drawers pulling out.
All right, so there wasn't like a lot of visual MCU connections, but at the very beginning of the movie, when Strange is on his not like a conference call, but one of his doctor colleagues calls him while he's driving recklessly to his event, we get to hear about a couple of different cases that Strange dismisses. The first one is they say like an army colonel that got shot out of a Air Force colonel that got shot out of an experimental flight device
or suit of armor. No, it's like an experimental suit of armor, and he has like 3 of his vertebrae crushed, and it's pretty obvious who that is.
Yeah, so we all know that that's talking about Colonel Rhodes, and Strange is not interested in that case at all. It's too basic for his aesthetics or whatever. And then they talk about like an older woman, and I don't think that was supposed to be a reference to anything unless I totally didn't get the point. But then the other one was like a 39-year-old woman who had been struck by lightning and like a bunch of other weird occurrences.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to be Captain Marvel. Yep,
I think that's what it's supposed to be. She's got like a brain implant or something that's malfunctioning or something like that. And that's the person that's supposed to be. That's the rumor that I had heard in all the sources I'd seen.
If we're wrong, we're sorry.
Yeah.
We didn't mean to be wrong, but those are the things that we
got from it.
Those of you that are smarter are more knowledgeable about all of the Marvel comics, feel free to, politely correct us. No need to be mean. All right, our Stan Lee cameo. He's just like a random dude on the bus, and then he happens to be reading like one of these important books about, I think it's like parallel dimensions, or there's like a lot of like different occult books that they have like little Easter eggs for.
So at one point, Wong is like naming off all these books that Strange apparently read in like 3 days or something, and they're all like the Keys of Solomon and like actual occult books that exists in our world that people believe are powerful or whatever. They're just books, man.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny that he's just like a random bus dude, and then he's making fun of the contents of the book. So
like that's just crazy.
It kind of makes me think that maybe this Stan Lee is they're starting to just say like, yeah, he is the one of the, was it the Watchers?
Yeah, or he's associated with, because I know in Guardians 2 they show him with the Watchers.
Yeah. All right, and then the mid-credit scene, which when we first saw this was pretty exciting, but then after the fact and seeing Thor Ragnarok, it's just kind of basic now, where Thor shows up and they're having a little conversation about Loki, and I think he does make the comment that Earth has wizards now, but it's very truncated from the version that we see in Ragnarok. So on a rewatch, this is not as enjoyable of a mid-credit scene as it was when we saw it in the theater.
Kimber's still regretting not stalking Cumberbatch when they were filming in New York.
I mean...
Yeah.
I would too. And then our post-credit scene is when Mordo seeks out the man from earlier who was healed by
his own magic
and takes it away from him because we shouldn't be using our magical powers.
Magic perverts the natural order, and the problem is Earth has too many sorcerers.
Yes, he makes the point to say there are too many sorcerers. So setting up the villain for Doctor Strange 2?
Yeah, possibly. Hopefully. I hope Mordo comes back. I hope there's more Doctor Strange films.
I hope so too.
As a side note, an MCU connection we forgot to bring up is the Time Stone.
That's right.
The Eye of Agamotto is the Time Stone, or it has the Time Stone inside of it.
And they even make a mention specifically that it is an Infinity Stone, and be careful with it later on. I forgot to grab that one. Again, it's been a day.
Yeah, it's been a day. So
before we talk about some more number crunching, let's check in with the chat.
Well, Tom is saying when Pepper is the one doing the fist fighting, he doesn't have an issue, and I'm like, that's fair. And Billy says she brought some spice to the franchise. Puns. Billy says Thor had a terrible wig in that scene. Yeah, and it is a good teaser for what's to come. But I always have an issue with the mid and end credit scenes that are basically just like, hey, this is a scene from a future film. Captain America First Avenger did it. Ant-Man does it. And there's probably at least one more that is just like, this is actually going to be a scene in the next one of these next movies. And I don't know. That bothers me. Because then we get fantastic ones like Guardians and Guardians 2 and Thor Ragnarok that are just completely unique scenes. And they're just fun and fantastic and exciting.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of scenes to talk about when we get to Guardians 2. But
So much.
Anything else going on in the chat?
Benjamin Bratt was the guy that he was playing the guy who got reparalyzed.
Yes, I can't remember the character's name.
I can't either. Let's see. Kimber liked Doctor Strange's maroon outfit. Kimber was saying kind of looked a little like Thanos. Come on, Thanos looks like Brian.
The look is uncanny.
Yeah. Other than that, not a whole bunch at the moment.
All right, well then let's go crunch some numbers.
We gotta get over here again. I'm having to use a touchpad and I don't like it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cal's saying congrats on hitting 80 subscribers, stopping by to say hi and drop like back to Gamer Rich. Thank you for popping in, Cal. We do appreciate it. And thank you for the congratulations. Tom calls Brat's character Basketball Jones. Fair.
Yeah, because it wasn't he playing basketball.
Yup.
All right, so we've gotten.
I hope Cal's here for this because he loves this one.
Yeah, we filled out a little bit more of our phase sheet.
Doctor Strange is now added onto it.
Yeah, so we're almost done with it. As soon as we get the last, we get to Guardians, we'll fill out phase 3 completely, and then the other ones will be filled out later with Guardians and Infinity War. And I feel like there should be another one filled.
Well, we have the 2 Avengers,
yeah,
the 2 Guardians, and Ant-Man. Those are the ones we're missing. We actually don't have a space on here for Infinity War.
That's because it's not in the phase.
Right, yeah.
It's a separate thing.
Yeah.
All right, and then Doctor Strange also stayed at number 1 for 2 weeks, and we went over the weekly box office for all of the other ones.
Billy brought up Hulk. Yes, and Hulk. I forgot Hulk.
Yes. I was just trying to think of what else was going in phase 2, but then when you said Ant-Man, that made sense of like, wait, there's 3 spots. What's missing? So yeah, Doctor Strange stayed at the number 1 of the box office for 2 weeks, but that wasn't enough to help it get like a huge overall worldwide box office compared to some of the other ones. And then Black Panther is no longer number 1 at the box office, so it had a 5-week run. Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yeah.
I think it's
whatever the new Pacific Rim.
Yeah, that one is now number 1 at the box office, but still pretty cool because both of them have a black protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool that those are the number 1 and number 2 movies in the country.
Yep.
And box office wise, Black Panther just continues to dominate. So where it's now like $1.2 billion worldwide. And as we can see, comparing our box office, Doctor Strange, even though it had a smaller budget and a pretty good critic and audience scores, didn't do as well as Spider-Man Homecoming. And I'm not sure if that has to do with the November release date, superhero fatigue, or whatever.
It could also be the character not being as well
popular.
known,
like Spider-Man is a hugely popular character,
and Doctor Strange, while having his fans and is wildly popular among them, I would imagine if it wasn't for Benedict Cumberbatch's star power being the lead of that character, it may not have done quite that much. Maybe about 100 million less.
But we see that it's kind of holding up decently with the other movies in like the second and third phases of the Marvel Universe. And of course, things like Iron Man 3, Civil War, those are in the $1 billion club. But it's, it's done pretty well. It's not the worst one on the list, obviously.
Yep.
And kind of looking back at the Black Panther audience score, I'm wondering if that suffers from people that like to give movies a false score just because they are mad that a movie has the audacity to be different than other movies.
Well, there was a massive campaign to give it crap, basically. Because I think, people were upset that Justice League didn't do well, and they, or whatever reason. There were lots of people, for lots of reasons, doing this kind of junk, and it's upsetting. But regardless, it still does strong, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and then you can see, people like to talk about a superhero fatigue, happening, but I think that these movies are still doing well enough, and a property that's pretty unknown like Doctor Strange to have, over $500 million worldwide at the box office. I think that it's still going strong.
Billy says he doesn't associate with it like that. I don't blame you, Billy. There's always going to be bad fans for every franchise. Doesn't matter what it is. And unfortunately, they're usually also the most vocal ones.
It's true.
All right.
Yeah.
Do we have more?
I think that's it.
So, all in all, how'd you feel upon revisiting this movie?
I really love Doctor Strange. It's not one that I was obviously familiar with growing up. I literally heard of him because of when they made fun of it on like Honest Trailers one time, where it's like, man, it can't get any weirder than this. oh no, I forgot. Like I can't remember which Honest trailer that was in, but it's like, what's Doctor Strange? I've never heard of it, and now I feel like I'm like not like the expert at school, but like I know a lot about Doctor Strange compared to other people, so I really like it. It's a fun character. We got a little Tony joining us apparently.
I have a familiar on set.
He looks like he's angry.
He's grumpy because I'm not letting him outside right now.
I really enjoyed Doctor Strange in the theater. I enjoyed it the second time that we watched it. I enjoyed rewatching it for this. It's just like, it's a fun story. I think that Stephen Strange has a good character arc within the movie. That's especially like if I'm trying to write something about, you know, like obviously in English class, you know, we can write about whatever we want to as long as it's on the topic we're given. And so I think he's a good character that can fit a lot of different topics. So it's a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. It's a fun movie.
It's got a fantastic cast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie. I think as excited as I am for Strange being in Infinity War, I think I'm more excited Wong will be in Infinity War because he was also.
Can we just fantastic. Get a movie with Wong the librarian? Like I would just watch like a TV show of that.
Mm-hmm. With his like earbuds in, listening to Beyonce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just like cracking jokes and keeping disciples from stealing the Sorcerer Supremes. I said that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Supreme. I sounded wrong when it came out.
I don't think he's quite the Sorcerer Supreme yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think he is either. That was a question I had because obviously the Ancient One is gone. Mordo left. So yeah. When will Stephen Strange become the Sorcerer Supreme? Like, what kind of training do you have to go through? Like, you just can't like get the new guy on campus to be the leader. So,
because Wong does bring up in the end of the movie that the word will get out that Earth does not have a Sorcerer Supreme. Mm-hmm. So,
all the other wizards will be coming from the different dimensions. Other dimensional beings will attack them. So.
You think they'll ever discuss the Scientist Supreme? I don't know, man. There's a lot of obscure is not even the right word. There's a lot of stuff that Marvel has done. I don't think the MCU will address unless they do in the 20 years of films they're talking about being able to do. Because I know Kevin Feige is like they have movies in the works for the next 20 years, so et cetera, et cetera. It's Hank Pym. I mean, in theory, they have Hank Pym. I would much rather them have a spin on Reed Richards and make him the Scientist Supreme. Because, hey, Loki's been Sorcerer Supreme of Earth before. So, you know, and in one comic art, Loki was President of the United States.
Oh.
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Tony looks depressed by that. But anywho, I think that's it for us.
Yeah, so we're taking this Sunday off because it's Easter.
And we'll have family.
But the Sunday after, as long as no school things happen, because that just seems to be the reason why we can't always air on Sunday, is some kind of school issue comes up that's, you know, obviously takes precedent because school is important.
This week I had 4 assignments for my media law class, one of which was a 5-page paper written in a format I've never written in before.
Yeah.
But yes, it would be like what, the 8th?
Yeah, I think the
April
8th.
April the 8th will be our next episode, and it will be over the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, the Incredible Hulk.
Whichever Hulk wasn't done by Ang Lee.
Yeah, I think it's the Incredible Hulk.
Yes.
We'll double check that because that would be real embarrassing. We watched the wrong one.
I believe it's the Edward Norton Hulk.
Yes, the Edward Norton one. So at least we know the right actor.
That does feature Tony Stark in one part of it.
That would be like that Flash review we did where I watched the wrong one and then the universe got messed. Oh, wait. We're not supposed to talk about that.
No, we don't. That's going to bring the whole problem.
Bellamy.
It'll be the convergence.
Where'd Bellamy go?
He's somewhere. Anywho, thank you for joining us. And as per the usual, we're just really, really terrible.
We're sorry that we had technical difficulties.
Sorry we're starting late. We're kind of throwing off our game because we're using each other's computers because
yes.
Hangouts wouldn't work on my computer for some weird reason.
But it worked on mine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's just been a cluster.
So, thank you, everyone, for joining us.
And we'll see you next time.
Yas.
Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Tony.